This is the Saab JAS-39 Gripen E.
With Gripen E, we decided early on to embrace the speed of technological change.
It's larger than the CD predecessor, and although externally it looks visually similar, under the skin, it's a very different beast.
The new avionics system in Gripen E is allowing us to update our software within hours. An example of what we can do. Say we record a new radar signature of an opponent. Say a new stealth fighter.
What if one rumor, just one, could completely change how you see an entire fighter jet program? Not just a minor upgrade, not just a small modification, but a shift so big that it challenges the very philosophy on which the aircraft was built. Imagine the Saab Gripen, a jet famous for doing more with less, suddenly paired with one of the most legendary engine makers in the world, Rolls-Royce. A name associated with power, prestige, and some of the most advanced propulsion systems ever created. At first glance, it sounds like the perfect upgrade. More power, more capability, more dominance in the sky. But here's the real question. Does that actually make sense? Or does it go against everything the Gripen was designed to be? To truly understand this, you have to go back to the origins of the Gripen program. Because this aircraft was never about chasing extremes. It wasn't built to be the fastest, the heaviest, or the most expensive. Sweden had a completely different challenge. It needed a fighter that could survive in a high-threat environment without relying on massive budgets or complex infrastructure. It needed something that could operate from short, even improvised runways. Something that could be refueled, rearmed, and sent back into combat within minutes. Something that could fight smart instead of just fighting hard. This philosophy shaped everything. The aerodynamics were designed for agility and control. The avionics were built for situational awareness and electronic warfare dominance. And the engine, arguably the most critical component, was chosen not just for raw thrust, but for reliability, efficiency, and compatibility with this unique concept of operations. That's why the Gripen E uses the General Electric F414 engine. It's not the flashiest engine in the world, but it is one of the most balanced. It delivers strong performance without excessive fuel consumption. It has a proven track record, it is widely supported. And most importantly, it fits perfectly into the Gripen's design philosophy, maximum effectiveness with minimum complexity. But then came the whispers. At first they were subtle. A mention here, a discussion there. Then suddenly the idea started gaining momentum. What if the Gripen switched to a Rolls-Royce engine? What if Saab decided to take this already capable fighter and push it into a new category of performance? For many aviation enthusiasts, this sounded exciting. Rolls-Royce is known for pushing the boundaries of engine technology. Their involvement in programs like the Eurofighter Typhoon and future initiatives like Tempest has positioned them as a leader in next-generation propulsion systems. The idea of combining that expertise with Saab's design approach creates a powerful image, one that feels like a natural evolution. But here's where things start to get complicated, because fighter jets are not modular machines where you can simply swap out major components without consequences. The engine is deeply integrated into the aircraft's entire structure. It determines airflow patterns, heat distribution, fuel system design, and even how the aircraft behaves in different flight conditions. In the Gripen E, the F414 is not just installed, it is embedded into the aircraft's identity. The intakes are shaped specifically for it. The internal layout is optimized around it. The software systems are calibrated to its performance characteristics. Changing the engine would mean changing all of these things. And that's not a small task. It would require redesigning major parts of the airframe. It would require new testing programs to validate performance and safety. It would require certification processes that could take years. And perhaps most importantly, it would require a massive financial investment. Something that goes directly against the Gripen's core principle of cost efficiency. Now think about this from Saab's perspective. You have a fighter jet that is already competitive. It is already capable. It is already attracting international customers. Why would you take on enormous risk, cost, and uncertainty to change something that is already working? This is where the rumor begins to lose its foundation, but at the same time, there is a reason why it doesn't disappear completely. Because behind the rumor, there is a deeper truth. The global fighter jet landscape is changing. Rapidly. We are entering an era where traditional performance metrics, speed, maneuverability, even stealth, are no longer the only factors that matter. The future of air combat will be defined by systems integration, data dominance, and advanced propulsion technologies that can support entirely new types of missions. Rolls-Royce is heavily involved in developing these future technologies. Their work on next-generation engines includes concepts like adaptive cycles, increased electrical power generation, and advanced thermal management systems. These are not just incremental improvements. They are fundamental shifts in how engines contribute to overall aircraft capability. At the same time, Saab is not standing still. The company understands that the Gripen, while highly advanced, is part of a transitional generation. It bridges the gap between traditional fighters and the future of air combat. And if Saab wants to remain relevant in the long term, it must look beyond the Gripen and toward what comes next. This is where the connection to Rolls-Royce becomes meaningful, but not in the way most people assume. The speculation about a Rolls-Royce-powered Gripen likely comes from Saab's involvement in discussions and collaborations related to future European fighter programs. These programs are exploring entirely new aircraft designs, aircraft that could very well use Rolls-Royce engines. So when people hear Saab and Rolls-Royce mentioned together, they connect the dots, even if those dots don't actually form the picture they just saw. Now here comes the turning point, the moment where everything becomes clear. There is no confirmed plan, no official statement, no development program indicating that the Gripen will receive a Rolls-Royce engine. The current aircraft remains firmly tied to the F414, and all signs suggest that this will continue for the foreseeable future. But that doesn't make the conversation meaningless, because sometimes rumors reveal more about the future than official announcements do. They show where interest is growing. They highlight potential partnerships. They hint at the direction the industry might be heading. And in this case, the direction is clear. The real story is not about upgrading the Gripen. It's about what comes after it. Imagine a future where Saab collaborates more deeply with European partners. A future where a new fighter emerges, one that is not limited by the constraints of existing designs. A fighter that integrates next-generation propulsion, advanced AI systems, and entirely new combat concepts. In that future, a Rolls-Royce engine is not just possible, it is likely. But that future aircraft will not be called Gripen. It will be something entirely new. And that's the part most people miss. They focus on the familiar name, the existing platform, the idea of upgrading what already exists. But true innovation rarely works that way. It doesn't just improve the old, it replaces it with something fundamentally different. So, is the Gripen really getting a Rolls-Royce engine? No. But is Saab moving toward a future where it could work with Rolls-Royce on advanced fighter technology? That's a much more interesting question, and the answer to that is far more likely to be yes. The Gripen remains exactly what it was designed to be, a smart, efficient, and highly capable fighter that delivers real-world effectiveness without unnecessary complexity. It is not trying to be something it's not, and that's precisely why it works, but the world around it is evolving, faster than ever before. New threats, new technologies, new alliances, and somewhere in that rapidly changing landscape, the seeds of the next great fighter are already being planted. So don't just focus on the rumors. Look at what they represent. Because sometimes the most important story isn't the one being told. It's the one that's just beginning. If you want to stay ahead of that story, if you want to understand not just what is happening, but what will happen next, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because the future of air combat isn't just coming. It's already taking shape.